How you doing, everybody, and welcome to the Biconics Wrestling Podcast Review. We are the Friday Night Faction, talking about Friday Night Smackdown from September 22nd, correct? My gosh, time is an illusion. It's hard to keep track of all these things. I'm back. I missed last week for, COVID reasons. I was dying at the time, but I'm doing a lot better. Mikey and Luis held it down, and we're fantastic. And they raised the bar. I got to know my notes because Luis is incredible. Mikey, happy Saturday. How you doing?
I'm doing really, really good. And the next few weeks are going to be interesting because we're going to have we have a revolving door of people in here between you, Evan, and now Luis just popping in wherever he can.
Right.
Just like I wasn't even supposed to be here. I just was running the tech, and now I have unofficially become a third member.
This would have been me rambling all by myself, maybe with Luis, but Mikey's here, thankfully. And for those of you that know, of course, Mikey and I are teachers, and once September hits, all hell breaks loose. And then, some of us do theater and have lives and try to keep up with things. So schedule's going to get nuts, but we're going to nail this down. We're going to try. Before we even start, and we talked about this before we started, the context of this SmackDown going into it, we've had 2-3 days of releases, lots of news from WWE and NXT, which you wanted to talk about at the end of this. Folks who are gone, obviously, we have a lot of random injuries, and then the COVID went through, and a few moments kind of got shifted and changed, obviously. We're also coming off the Rock hangover because the Rock just showed up and changed the game for 20 minutes last week, and we haven't really gotten the magic back since the Rock disappeared. That's my opinion. It's just, how do you follow that? Like Louis said last week, like you blew it. Now what happens? There's no way you're going to get caught up in the wave of that.
I mean, yeah, me and Luis, we talked about this last week with The Rock because I was like, we love that he returned. That was a fun segment. We both agreed though that you should have put that at the end because
Right.
The Rock coming back and just the pop and everything that happened, the rest of the roster had to follow up, and
Absolutely.
it's just like,
and if you had ended SmackDown with that momentum could have carried over into tonight. And we could have had this whole, oh my God moment. Just feeling, oh yeah, I'm back on the train. Maybe something else happens again, but tough to follow. However, last night's SmackDown, not a bad SmackDown. I did not hate it. There were some moments I went, okay, I get it. I will say that Io Sky Asuka match, when we go to talk about it, was incredible. I was quite amazed by that match. They got the full time, even though there were 2 commercial breaks, and I wonder how much longer it would have been and what was cut, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Lots of fun stuff. The promos weren't terrible because they were short. we dialed it down. We were distilling things. We're making story happen. It's sad to say, but for 2023, it kind of took SmackDown, I don't know, 10 months to get its bearings on where are we going, what are we doing, but they might actually have found it.
Oh, I mean, again, we've been reviewing SmackDown. This origin of the Biconics reviewing SmackDown happened. We started doing this at the beginning of summer, and we're pretty much towards the end of September now. So we've been doing this for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while for SmackDown to get there, but I think if this is what we can get on a weekly basis in terms of SmackDown, I am here for it.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, you got 2 in a row. That's like, all right, we're building to something. And we're not falling into that, promo fest stuff and Roman Reigns with the Undertaker entrance, which after listening last week, I totally understand why Luis hates the Undertaker. Totally get it now. It absolutely makes sense to me. Like, how do you hate oh, I get it. Yeah, I just, the pacing's better. They tightened it up some. I don't know what it took to get us here, or finally McMahon was just enough out of the picture to where his influence was lesser. I don't know, but it's been working the last 2-3 weeks or so, which is fantastic. So SmackDown starts off with John Cena, which again, setting the bar high. Everyone goes crazy for the John Cena. John Cena hopefully cleaned that shirt. He's been wearing the same shirt for a month and a half. Good for him. goes out there, talks to Bloodline, calls for a tag team partner, says he thinks he found one in AJ Styles. AJ Styles shows up. They just kind of share words briefly, and that's it.
I Yeah, I mean they share words, and then Jimmy and Solo come out. Obviously, we didn't. I knew we weren't going to get anything, but
It was interesting because I was kind of I think it was a missed opportunity. And I do think we're egging the audience on and we don't want the match, but we do, but we don't, but we do. So I get that. I think it was really funny that AJ Styles was just, all right, sure. And then he just stand there waiting for the Bloodline and the Usos to show up. I kind of love this Jimmy as this chaotic neutral character of just let's do it, yeah, go ahead, right? This sort of attitude of what are you gonna do? Fire me? Go ahead, attitude, which is kind of fun, especially with Solo trying to be, the stoic I murder everyone in the streets character. I The audience was there was a lot of heat on them that they started building at the beginning of the SmackDown, and we'll see when we get there. The last, I don't know, 5 minutes of SmackDown, you couldn't hear anything because they hated them. I was kind of sad not to see this pop off here, but again, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I was like, yeah, okay, sure, you got me.
well, definitely. And again, like me and Luis talked about, for me personally, I love that we get a through line throughout the whole episode. So we sporadically get pieces and
Yeah.
bits before we get into like the big crescendo of it all,
Uh
if
huh.
you will. Because once this interaction happened, Jimmy tells Jimmy backs off and grabs Solo's like, nah, we ain't doing this. So then, we go to commercial. When we come back, we see Cena, AJ going to Adam Pierce, like, we don't hear what's being discussed. Just a commentary,
Yeah,
like doing the ad lib for it, be like, oh, they are looking
which
to
I
get a
thought was a,
match.
a very interesting choice. Yeah, yeah.
And so essentially, and we'll come to find out later that they technically do get a tag team match. It's just not on a regular episode of SmackDown.
Man, and and we'll talk about this at the end. I was really interested to see who came out for that signing at the end, and now we gotta wait. But they got me. Normally, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay, fine. It's not gonna happen. But they got me. I was all in on this, which is a testament to them, I guess. I'm still kind of sad that, they have this massive roster, which they just cut down, and we're still not seeing new faces, new people. We're kind of doing the same three or four, maybe three or four storylines, but okay, fine. Um, so we get the Adam Pearce and AJ. Okay, so then we can jump to this LWO and Street Profits match, which that's Sarape he came out in was gorgeous.
Yes, I was just like, ugh, my peoples.
That was something like, oh, you got to sell that outside. Like people gonna buy that.
See, I don't want to give WWE merchandise ideas, but I would
I
not be
know.
against them selling serapes with
I'd be
LWO on it.
that one. I'm like, okay, yeah, that one. I think you should absolutely should have.
Or what they should do if they really want to tap into the Mexican American market, they should have if you go to the swap meet or if you go to any secondhand store as a Mexican growing up as a Mexican in America, abuelita has the big old comforter blankets with the wolf on it. If you do something like that with LWO and sell it, I'd be kind of here for that.
I had friends who had those framed, like had those hanging in walls and stuff, which I'm sure you've seen as well. Or it's like, oh
Oh.
yeah, or it's over the window and it just looks beautiful. Like, oh yeah, it's covering a hole, but it's gorgeous. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Again, I don't trust WWE merch to handle the cultural
Exactly.
the culture with care, but
Yeah,
honestly,
they'll blow it.
I would
They'll
they probably would. Would I still buy it? Probably.
yeah, they'll appropriate it just enough to be like, God damn it, why'd you have to do it like that?
I know
They'll
it's
make
me being a hypocrite of not wanting to appropriate cultures, but I
see
would wear that so hard.
See, they would make like an LWO rain poncho, and it would come in the tiny bag, and it would be like the Coachella ponchos or the Disneyland ponchos. It's like, damn it, you were so close. What are you doing? Um, Sorry, I digress. Went on a tangent. LWO. Street Profits come out. Street Profits were booed. They were not liked, which I think it's. I mean, of course they cheer for the thing, but it seemed like once Bobby Lashley kind of joined them out the other night, audience was not. They got heat now. They're booed. There was a lot of mixed reaction to them coming down to the ring.
Right, and, that's what we wanna see because, we're slowly getting Street Profits to the heel turn, so I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay." Now what I found interesting is so the match itself was a lot of fun. Ray and Santos with, Street Profits,
Mhm.
Angelo Dawkins and
Yeah.
Montez Ford. I thought this was a really fun match, and then I thought to myself, it's like, I don't really remember these 2 teams ever going at it, like, in this fashion, like, since on SmackDown. Like, they really haven't crossed paths, and
No,
I
you're
was
right.
refreshed. I was like, "Oh, you know what? This is refreshing because I haven't seen this match before,
Yeah.
and it is great." I found it interesting, so, towards the end of the match, you know, Bobby the ref is distracted, so Bobby picks again, Bobby Lashley still in a full suit is able to pick up another human being in Rey
Uh-huh.
Mysterio. I don't even
Mhm.
if Rey is small, like that's still like a couple that's like 100 and something odd pounds
Yeah, well,
there.
Bobby Lashley did it with, like, one hand.
It's like picks
He's
up Ray,
er.
slams him on the apron, and pushes him in. And then
Mhm.
Angelo sees this. He's like, "Bro, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And like, it was weird to
Mm.
see. Okay, so I know eventually we're working for the Street Profits to get that killer edge,
Uh-huh.
but it was weird from them being okay with attacking, you know, Cruz and them last week and after their tag team match with them, and
Yeah.
then they have an issue because Bobby did that to Ray, and so essentially that's what cost the Street Profits the match because there was that moment of
Mm.
like, no, we
Mhm.
can't do that, which allowed Ray and Santos to pick up the win. And
Yeah.
Bobby was just so mad at them at the end of the match, just looking at them like, bro, what are we doing?
Yeah, and it's kind of forced, and you and Luis were talking about this last week. It just came when you go directly against someone's demeanor, right? Like, when you push too far that way, we kinda buy it. We bought it when they were sort of this, "We have money, we wear suits now, we're trying to class it up, but still be who we are." Now that we're slowly doing this heel turn, I think you gotta rip the Band-Aid off. If you're gonna make them heels. This sort of slow, "We're gonna learn how to be bad guys" thing isn't quite, working for me. The match itself I thought was fine. I think that, Dawkins and Ray worked really well together. They were great. I think Santos and Ford were a little off. There was a handful of miscues and sort of waiting on the turnbuckle here and there and calling the spot maybe a little too late or forgetting where they were, so they felt a little slower to me. But again, it's also Ray. Ray can work with anyone and make it beautiful, I'm sure. But him and Dawkins worked really well together, I felt. Um, and you're right. The ending of this was sort of a strange, like, I've set you up to win and then you didn't. And then lo and behold, the surprise roll up strikes again and just gets him out of nowhere. Um, I don't know where we're going. I'm happy the LWO didn't lose during Hispanic Heritage Month. Like, that's nice. Like, could we not keep doing that? I'm glad nobody got their mask ripped off. Thank you. Okay. But also kind of sets up the Street Profits into a corner. Like, where are you going to go with this angle now? Are you going to have this angry Bobby Lashley? We have to get him back thing. It almost feels like if you're doing it arbitrarily like this, like they would turn on Lashley. Now you have a Lashley Street Profits thing going. But again, I don't think they would go there, and if it makes sense, they're not gonna do it, so I don't know. And we're still leaning on this Santos Ray match, which I still have my issues with. It still hasn't kind of popped and clicked storytelling wise, like you and I talked about before. Like, what is this mentor versus student thing gonna be, and high and wow?
And I mean, they literally have a week to figure out how they want to tell that story in the
Yeah.
ring because w- fast forwarding to the bumpers a little bit, we get announced be like, yeah, this championship match is happening next week on SmackDown. I'm like, once again, you couldn't have waited till Fastlane. Okay, sure, fine,
Right.
whatever. Once
Which
again,
Fastlane sounds like it's in trouble in a few different ways, but we'll talk about that.
we'll talk about it at the end when we talk about it because Fastlane's build right now, where Raw has been doing a pretty decent job of giving me the figuring out the
Sure.
matches we're getting. SmackDown needs to figure out what it wants to do
I
because
didn't really know anything about Fastlane until y'all mentioned it last week, and I went, "Oh yeah, that's coming up, isn't it?" There's been nothing on SmackDown about it.
Fastlane is in 2 weeks, and once again,
Whew.
your mid card and your women's championship on SmackDown doesn't look like it's going to make the card, which is I'm like, huh?
Mm.
But we'll save that when we get there. So we run into this recap next of The Rock returning. I'm not going any more depth of it. You watched it, garnered all that many views of YouTube. Sure, fine, whatever. But there
Man,
was
that's
yeah,
so much money they made. They 150
it's
million views, and that's so much money that just went right into WWE's pocket, and they still cut all those people.
it's disgusting. And I get when people merge like corporations, they want to find measures to, efficiently cut costs and things like that. But I'm like, I'm gonna save it for the end. But anyways, so
Yeah, yeah.
everyone loved it, but except for one particular person, because as Michael Cole was talking over this,
That's
Austin
funny.
Theory comes out and gets in the face of the commentators. I'm like, Austin, you got to be mad at The Rock, not at them, because he
I was sort of like, and Michael
what
Cole totally leans on it to make sure that everyone knows I love The Rock. If you smell, and then Austin Theory.
like trying to
Oh.
hijack the show, throwing the tantrum. He's ready to fight Michael Cole and the rest of the commentating team. And then the refs come in to try to hey man, you guys sell. Austin Theory was ready to turn around and throw hands with the male referee.
Mhm.
I was like, yo, bro, we about to swing? Like, what is but Austin eventually leaves and we'll talk about it because shortly afterwards we get like the follow-up to his tantrum in the
Yeah.
ring, which was really weird.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, bad podcasting. I apologize. Um, so, and you would know more about this than I do. We then get to this awesome Irish Druid magic mage spot, which I was all about. Uh, is this new? I'd never seen this. I knew they came up from NXT, correct?
Yes. Okay. So
Right?
let me recap all their television time.
Because I just haven't seen him for
None.
months.
Well,
Exactly.
no, that's you got it exactly right. So remember,
I
at the
remember the
time,
call up. This was almost this the draft, right?
yeah, at the time of the
Yeah.
draft, which was what? When
Oh
did we
God.
record that? That was like in September of
It was
last
a
year,
year ago?
like almost a year ago. So let's recap this,
Really? Have we
right?
been talking shit about the draft for a year?
I feel like a little bit,
I
yeah.
mean, it feels like it. So yeah, it's probably true.
God, that was a whole mess because
Wow.
it messed up a lot of things. But anyway, so Alpha Fire, Isla Dawn, we get the small little vignette of this witchcraft druid magic thing, and I'm here for it. I love it so much. But to recap their television time, they got called up at the time. They were the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. Then they had a nice little showing, and then they got into the unification match between them and at the time Shayna Baszler and
Mhm.
Ronda Rousey. They lost
Mhm.
that match, which we talked about how we were
Yeah,
upset about that match.
that's right.
And then they basically disappeared off of television, and we haven't seen them since until
Yeah.
now. I'm like, are you only bringing them back out because they're spooky? It's spooky season now.
I was
Like,
gonna say because it's Halloween and you want that angle. Ugh.
now, I don't know if it was the women's decision or creative's decision because there's a meme on the internet going around like ever since the creation of the women's tag team championships on the main roster, they've always been cursed because
Mhm.
anybody who wins them either gets released or dramatically hurt. And poor Raquel seems to be out of like three or four, out of the four of these championship reigns. And so that was the underlying thing in this vignette. It's just like, these titles have been cursed. Why I don't know why I'm doing Russian, I can't do it, but you know what? It's fine. And I feel I wanna apologize to Alba Fire and Isla Dawn because you girls are amazing, and that accent was horrible. But
Oh,
anyways,
they're fantastic. I think it's a great angle to say that they're the ones that cursed the titles now that all this
exactly.
has gone wrong. I
I
think
was
that's
like,
fantastic.
yep.
I love the supernatural shit in wrestling. I think most of the time, 90% of the time it works. But you got to go all in on it. And it seems like maybe this is the start of them going all in on it. If you're going to, if you're going to go Kane, Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, Abaddon, like if you're going to go full supernatural Valhalla, like if you're going to go all the way in on the, go all in on this, cast spells, do rituals, If you're gonna do Gangrel drinking the thing of blood, like go all in on it. Make the theater happen. It's great.
It really is, and I appreciate that main roster is letting them keep the gimmick that they started to develop in NXT as the spooky druid girls.
Mm-hmm.
I just need one more person, and we literally can have our WWE main roster version of my sexual awakening of the Hex Girls from Scooby Doo. Tell me when I'm wrong. Like literally, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are one guitar away from being the Hex Girls.
Oh, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that song in my head. You remind me of a plan. One plan on the power of voodoo, hoodoo, hoodoo, voodoo. Yeah,
I
I'm going.
unlocked a lot of listen, those movies were great.
Underrated, very underrated movies. Lots of folks in those. Lots of, as you said, lots of awakenings because of that series of movies when those came out for lots of folks.
Yep, and the spooky girls of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn will
Mhm.
also have the same effect of me as an adult.
Hey, there you go. Everyone has their thing. I'm excited for it, and I know we're talking it to death, but I think that's a lot of fun, and I really want to see. I really want to see that happen. I think it was really funny that so then we end up with this angry
Austin
Angry
Theory.
Austin Theory, Angry Austin Theory walking down. I'm trying to get my brain around describing this. It's hard to describe it. Angry Austin Theory walking down a hallway, talking to a busy Adam Pierce, and the Brutes are there, and they just kind of go, "Hey, you want to fight? You want to fight?" And then Grayson Waller goes, "Hi, everybody," and just kind of pops in, and they
Poor
share words.
Grayson, he got sucked into this. He's like, "Literally, I was about to leave. I didn't say anything."
He was totally that friend. I've been that friend where it's like, "Why am I in the office? I didn't do anything." Adam Pierce makes the match right away, and I love how quickly Adam Pierce can make that match, but not the Bloodline match.
It took him a whole entire
It took
like
him. It took him literally seconds to go. You're going tonight. Bang. What? But now with the Bloodline, we got to do a contract, and we got to make a phone call, and we got to do a thing. So Adam Pierce has power, but doesn't really have power, which is kind of a funny spot for him to be as a character. But I kind of I kind of laughed at that out of context because I was like, "Yeah, you made that match right away. What about the other one? Like, what the hell?
I
That doesn't
know.
make any sense."
Again, poor Grayson, he's just like, "Bro, I was just here. I was about to leave. I'm just here to support my friend, and I got roped into this." And then I was like, as soon as I saw like this matchup, I was just like, "Okay, so Grayson and Austin are gonna win,
Right?
but Ridge is gonna take the pin."
Yeah.
I'm okay. I actually appreciated that Ridge took the pin in that match because you
Sure.
don't want Butch getting pinned, especially since he's currently in a NXT tournament
Ah.
to determine who's going to face Noam Dar for that Heritage Cup at No Mercy, which we'll talk about at the end. So,
And
yeah.
I was
Mhm.
glad that the Phoenix crowd didn't give Ridge so much heat, like you talked about last week on SmackDown. I hope that's starting to simmer and kind of fade a little bit because
It was an
it,
accident.
it was
And
lots of
even
accidents.
Biggie
These things
said it was an
happen.
accident.
And then even in my head, in watching that match, which we'll talk about when we get there, it felt like he was almost doing going above and beyond. He was working harder to make sure it was even safer for the two of them. But we'll talk about when we get there. There was a few things that I saw that I was like, no, he's putting the work in. He's trying really hard. Um. So and then we get this Bobby Lashley, Street Profits can't finish the job, can't finish
It's literally like the
thing.
embodiment of like, we're breaking up, get your shit and move out of my apartment.
Right, was really mad, like, and not quite Roman Reigns manipulative, gaslighty, but close. So I don't know. I'm not sure where we're going. Like I said, I don't dislike it.
No, I'm
Mo-
sure we'll get something on the
yeah,
Grayson Waller effect next week of
sure.
Street
Like
Profits or something.
they'll bring it up and they'll mention it, and um, I think that there's a way to finesse this and make it clean. I just don't know if I don't trust WWE to do it. So we'll see. It was a quick spot. I mean, that was what, maybe 20, 25 seconds or so.
Yep.
So
And then we get into my match of the night. The WWE Women's Championship match between Asuka and Io Sky. My match of the night, no contest. Like,
absolutely.
oh,
Yeah. So
we got
I timed this to make sure they got the proper time. Let me make sure I make the notes on this. Yeah. We got 15, a total of 15 minutes from bell to bell that we saw on TV time, which means live, it had to have been 20 minutes or more.
Yep.
Had to be, because every time we
Yep.
came back from commercial, they were somebody else. So they got full pay-per-view PLE time. They did it.
Again, over the course, they got 2.5 commercial
Yeah.
breaks. I was happy because where I watched it, I didn't get no picture in picture, so I got to see the whole
Oh,
thing.
I should have done that. That would have been amazing. Ugh.
But
Can you
again,
tell me? Can you
yeah.
tell me what happened in between the commercials? Do you know what happened?
So in between the picture in picture, because I didn't see the picture in picture version, but because I saw the whole thing, like I think I could pick up on parts where it went into picture in picture because the commentary team talked less. And we got to see a lot more of the heavier strikes between Asuka and Io.
Okay.
Like Asuka's kicks, man, I'm just like, oh my god.
Because our first commercial was they went over. It was the big flip that Io Sky kind of missed, but it still looked beautiful, and they landed on the outside. Oh no, I take that back. I'm sorry. Asuka had tossed Io Sky to the outside,
Hmm.
and then something happened. She got kicked, and Io Sky no sold something, and Asuka has this take to the camera really quick, and then it cut away. And then when we come back, they're in the middle of the ring. So I was like, "What happened? Where'd you go?"
Yeah, so in between that, there was a lot more heavier strikes, and then that's where Asuka kind of threw Io back into the ring and
Uh-huh.
continued to work on her a little bit. And then once she kind of worked Io a little bit, that's when I think we returned to commercial break. But
Okay.
this match ruled. I do admit
Yeah.
there, like you brought up, there were like about one or two spots that was a little bit of messy in terms
Well,
of.
because and I didn't, yeah, I don't even wanna say messy, just in, like, they took the risks. They were
Mhm.
like, "Hey, we're gonna give you 20 minutes," and they went, "Okay, we're gonna do everything." And it wasn't even like a miscue, it's like sometimes those things happen, and they still sold it, they still did great, but,
This
oh, it
match
was a trip.
ruled.
Yeah, it was so
This
good.
match ruled. But I forgot. Let's back up a little bit because
Sorry about that, sorry about that.
well, no, because before the match started, I forgot. I was just like, wait, why do I have this in my notes? Oh yeah, right. I was a little worried because as soon before the match started, it was like, oh,
Oh,
Charlotte Flair came out. I was like, oh god,
yeah.
no, don't get involved in this championship match. And by the end of it, I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
But
by the end, I was. My wife, who does not watch wrestling, was sitting with me, and even she looked up from her phone and went, "Why is she there?" And I was like, you get it. You don't even watch." And I respect Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair's great. I've warmed up to Charlotte Flair. I totally understand. But she's almost become a trope of herself, showing up to every single match and
I was
getting
like, she's not
involved.
even. I know she's not even in the title match, and she still manages to
Right.
find a way to be the main fixture in a title match. That's not even her. But you know what? She sat on commentary the whole entire time, except when Bailey tried to interfere, and I'm
Uh-huh.
glad that she decked Bailey. Unfortunately, though, what ended up happening, and this is the only critique I had about this match because I hated it, was the fact because Charlotte comes in good natured and actually trying to prevent cheating from happening by decking Bailey in the face. Inadvertently, this distracts Asuka enough for Io to do what she needs to retain the championship. So,
Yeah.
according to the reports, I think it's going to be Charlotte versus Asuka at Fastlane, which I'm not
So,
against,
yeah, I'm
but
not.
I was just like, this is the only critique I have. I'm like, really?
They couldn't. They had such a match going. They could have done it clean. They didn't need to do anything on the outside. They didn't need to play that card. I have a thought, and I was going to bring this up with you and Lewis. I'd still love to hear Lewis's thought on this. Before the match starts, Io Sky's coming to the ring, and Asuka and the ref are in a really tense looking conversation. They're talking. And then after Io's in the ring, they introduce Io Sky. She still leans over to the ref and is saying something, and it's not casual. Like she's barking something at the ref. And then once they start to introduce, and Asuka, and then she does her, intro dance and take to the camera, goes back to the ref, says something else to the ref, shakes her head, and then the match starts. And then Charlotte Flair in the moment, but right before that moment, what was that about?
So okay, because it was a conversation going both ways between the ref and Asuka,
Yeah,
and we don't know who initiated it. What I do know is, and again, I could be 100% wrong here, but in real life, I mean, they kind of patched it up a little bit, but Io and Asuka hate each other,
I
like,
was
for
gonna
real,
ask.
in real life.
That's my next
Since the
question.
days of them wrestling in Japan, like, they legit have beef.
I was
And,
gonna
you know,
ask
it's
you because there
Mhm.
Graves mentioned it, and then Michael Cole said something about it, so I actually have a note here to be like, what is this history with these 2 from Japan? Like, long ago.
So, okay, so we're gonna dive down a rabbit hole really quickly. So, this beef is not necessarily, like, on the level of, like, and I'm gonna pull a comparison here to another company. It's not on the level of, like, Mike Santana and Ortiz in AEW where they have legit beef with each
Sure.
other
Is
backstage.
this like an Eddie Claudio thing where, like, we don't like each other, but we work well together?
Yes, but this more stems from, and again, this is based on what I could find out. So, when Asuka was in Japan, she did this article when she was wrestling in Japan, like a magazine article, because Joshi wrestling is really big in Japan, and they treat their stars like we do American pop stars and musicians here with like article interviews, like
Sure.
photo shoots and things like that. So this was a wrestling magazine that Asuka did this uh kind of like a shoot interview where she basically put the state of women's Joshi wrestling on blast.
Ooh, that's
The state
interesting.
of it, like, she half of the article was, speaking out against promoters and how they don't take women seriously,
Sure.
and they're focused on creating, like, these idol-esque kinda wrestlers,
You mean like the
and
Hulk Hogan saying that all wrestlers now look like they work at Starbucks and nobody does the proper this, and Undertaker saying that nobody takes care of their characters and they're not protective of their blah,
well,
blah, blah?
more so she was speaking out Asuka was speaking out against the promoters because she's like, "We're not here to be cutesy and things like that, like, if we're
Sure.
gonna wrestle, we can look cute, but that shouldn't be the primary focus." And
Okay.
then she listed some names of some people, up and coming that she thought were, like, examples of, like, "Oh, this is what we're going with, okay, that's not me," or whatever, and Io was one of those people she listed,
Ooh.
so Io took offense to it, so every time they interacted, like, it was legit like, "Oh, they're trying to kill each other."
Wow, wow.
Now, both at that time, both of the women were a lot younger, so, of course, as you get older, the hope
Sure.
is that we mature as adults, and like I said, this beef has kinda simmered a little bit, but there has been that bad blood that still
I mean,
kinda exists.
how long ago was this? Because Asuka is 41,
Like,
42.
I wanna say, like,
Io Sky can't be much younger.
Io, I think, is in her mid-30s, I think.
Yeah, so this is going back to the early 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago? Like that far back?
Yep.
Wow. Interesting.
Let me tell you, I am happy to report this because this is the first time I actually did my research like a true
Mm.
wrestling review YouTube reviewer.
Hey, there you go. Biconics doing a research. I'm interested because I didn't know that. Because we had talked in the past, and I don't want to say that they were friendly. That's not what I mean. But there was some sort of camaraderie between them, both being from Japan and doing certain spots. And I want to say there's a promo of them, and then like behind the scenes, they're kind of laughing and talking to each other. So they're cordial.
Yeah,
There
like
might
I said, I think because they are older now, like they've matured a little bit.
sure,
And again, are cordial with each other and they're kind of friendly, but
yeah,
they still have beef with each other. And what I'm hoping is, especially like I mentioned the last couple weeks with the
mm,
reports that Kyrie Sane is coming back into WWE,
sure,
I'm all I want is Asuka, Kyrie, and Io to have a triple threat match. Doesn't
mm,
matter if it's for a title or not, but I want those 3 because those are the 3 if I had to pick, those are the 3, like, modern between, like, the 2000s up until now, like, the 3 pillars of women's Japanese wrestlers,
sure.
like Asuka, Io, and Kyrie are, like, that level of golden, but back to what we were discussing, again, I think they work very well. I think they're
Uh-huh.
cordial to each other, but there's just a hint of bad blood, and
Yeah,
I like the fact that they played on it in terms of the in-ring psychology that they did,
yeah.
but it wasn't to the fight where, like, oh, they're trying to actually kill each other, like,
No. They
mm-mm.
incredible. Those John Woo drop kicks they do are just so painful looking, but so beautiful when they happen. Io Sky can jump off of anything and make it look beautiful. Asuka's strong style and just that catch wrestling style of movement from here to there to here to there, really exciting to watch. Always on. They sell well. Like I didn't take notes. I'm a bad podcaster because I watched the thing. And the only things that I saw that might have been miscues, I only noticed them because they stood out barely compared to everything else. You know what I mean? Like it was so good. Come on. It's still only one women's match for the night, which is not okay. But you gave them 20. You had two commercial breaks. I had a moment where I was like, "Oh my god, is Asuka gonna take this, or Charlotte Flair is gonna get involved, or something?" It looked like Io might have dropped it, which would have been sad because it would have been a 3-month run, 2-month run.
Ridiculous, but
But I had a moment of like, "Oh my god, this is gonna happen. Wait, what?" And then what happens happens. It was a blast. Like I thought this match was great.
again, minus the ending, bit
Right.
because Charlotte versus Asuka at Fastlane is what's reported to be it. Charlotte versus Bailey next week actually should be a lot of fun, but then I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
Asuka's gonna pop up, isn't she? Oh,
Yeah.
but
Um.
this
So
match
then
rolled.
it was great. So then we get into this Jimmy Uso doing more chaotic neutral things behind the
Oh,
scenes.
listen, last week I stated that Jimmy Uso was like running rogue out here. This week proved even more so he was running rogue because literally him, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman were backstage, and Adam Pearce comes up, and then this is where we find out that the contract for the tag team match
Mhm.
is not going to be on a SmackDown. It's a tag team match at Fastlane in
Uh-huh.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And so Paul Heyman's like, we need to look over this. I need to talk to he didn't say Roman's name, but he's like, I need to run it through Roman. And Jimmy's like, nah, bro, it looks everything good. Let's do this.
That was so funny. And then Paul Heyman being like, normally we go through and we have to get approval. And he's like, great, tell me what he thinks. And just walks out.
Jimmy,
So good.
so Jimmy's character right now is reminding me, and I don't know if you have somebody like this, but it reminds you of like that cousin or like that, sibling that you have where you're just like, there's a certain way we have to do things. It looks great. It just does it anyways. That's you.
I'm that teacher. The administrations always hate John for this sort of thing. I am notorious for that, and I'm not going to admit on the air the things I have done. But yeah, I'm definitely a ask forgiveness person. Oh, I had no idea. Oh yeah. When I direct a show, they call OSHA like 10 times and they still hate me, even though I'm trying to push
I mean, you must be doing
mm,
something right because you're still here.
I'm not fired yet. Yeah, I'm absolutely that cousin and brother and and influence on things. That's why it probably resonates with me so much. I think it's hilarious. I think it's a lot of fun.
I love it so much. I was like, Jimmy Uso out here being delusional, thinking he's like, everything's good. And at first I was like, I kind of don't like that we forgot everything that has happened the last couple of months, but you know what? It is what it is. And
You know,
I was surprised. I was like, no Judgment Day trying to get into Jimmy's head. I was like, oh, okay.
and like Lewis talked last week, I feel like that's more genuinely Jimmy. I feel like that's more him instead of this tough guy street kid thing. Like him and Jay get together and
He's literally the class clown.
we frown and mug each other. Let him be the funny one and let him be the chaotic funny one. So then when he snaps, I'm like, oh my God, the funny guy's beating your ass. This is hilarious. You know what I mean? Like I lean on it differently. And Solo's just a perfect straight man to do it off of. I think it's really fun. So then we go after that, and then we have this promo for Australia a year from now. I want to say, and I don't want to anger any. I don't think we have any fans from Australia yet. And I have known in person in my life 1, 2, 3, 4 Australians, and they've all said the same thing. Perth is not a cool place.
That's what I said. I was like, if you're gonna pick anywhere in Australia, obviously I haven't been there. I don't know the geography like the locals do, but I'm like, if you're gonna go big, like Melbourne, Sydney,
Yeah, ones we've heard of. Yeah, like Perth is the South Dakota of the United States. Nobody really, nothing's out there. There's a theater program that Mel Gibson went to 40 years ago. That's their only claim to fame. There's nothing there. It's not exciting. There's no culture there from the folks I've talked to. It's just sort of a meh town on the map because Australia's huge. And you chose Perth? Really? Why are we going there?
look, Something tells me, and this is our conspiracy corner for this week. I think they probably decided this was the best place. Like, I think, honestly, I think Perth probably said yes because they're thinking, oh, we can get so many people to come here. And I think they just signed yes because they probably, I feel like this was a last minute decision to have Elimination Chamber in Australia. I was like, I know you all wanted to do a stadium show, but so is Elimination Chamber going to be one of those international ones that you bring? Because it was in Canada last
Yeah,
year.
it was Montreal last year.
I also find it funny you're putting it in. Ooh, we'll talk about it when we talk about these NXT releases because Emma tweeted like 35 minutes before her release. I'm excited to have a show be in my hometown. It's been a dream of mine. I hope I get to participate in the Elimination Chamber. 35 minutes later, she like replied to her own tweet and she's like, oh, never mind, got released.
Jesus. I feel like this might have been a business decision or an endeavor decision. Like, hey, do a big show in an international place that's cheap. I feel like on the list of major cities that would give
Yep.
you this contract and go to Perth. Why? Because nobody cares.
I'm gonna be upset, and again, this is like a year in advance, but I'm gonna be upset when May rolls around if we do Backlash again and it's not back in Puerto Rico. I'll be like, "You fucked it
Yo,
up, WWE."
I feel like Backlash might have to be
It is
a
still my favorite pay per view from
it should
WWE this year.
it's in my top 2. It's gotta be if it's a Puerto Rican tradition, how amazing would that be? Backlash every year there, that'd be huge.
Please,
Um, and again, Perth is 8 hours from the closest major city drive, like 4 hours from the next town that's kinda like Perth. Like, it's a hole, there's nothing there. And if you're from Perth and there's something cool about your town, you can tell me all about it. I've met 2 people from there, and I'm just repeating what they said to me. And then all of my other Australian friends who are from Melbourne, 3 from Melbourne and 1 from Sydney, they're all just like, "Yeah, we don't talk about Perth because blah." You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to.
yeah,
Ah,
it's a thing, and I find it really interesting that again, it's no surprise that WWE starts to tell you like it way in advance, like the next shows we're going to do.
yeah,
But I'm sitting here and I was like, y'all just announced that Tampa Bay is where Tampa is going to be where the Royal Rumble is in January. And I was like, okay, we're getting close to Survivor Series, so you want to like the next big four pay per view. And then literally 2 weeks later, oh, Elimination Chamber, February 24th. And I'm like looking at my calendar. I'm just like, that's kind of very far away to announce these things.
no.
Like, I get it, I do, but it's just like,
That is a UFC and Endeavor thing where they are announcing things and telling you when tickets are on immediate, like trying to get that in your brain as soon as possible so that you do check a calendar and look at that stuff. I mean, WWE's always kind of done that anyway with the big four, but I feel like that's a very much an Endeavor influence. Like, announce it soon, announce it early, announce it all the time, sort of thing.
I'm just like, can we get past? I'm like, WWE, can we get past Fastlane and Survivor Series? Because I don't count Crown Jewel for anything.
That's fair. We've talked about Perth too much. Let's talk about Pretty Deadly because that was hysterical.
Oh
Pretty
my
Pretty
God.
Deadly cuts a promo that is probably one of the funnier things WWE's done in
And
months, in
it
my
works.
opinion.
It works with these two. So okay, so the first thing I have in my notes is I listen as the young. Even though I'm a millennial, I tend to be on the younger side. But the fact that, and I don't know if it was them or WWE had them do this to try to relate with the "Hey, I know what you, hey there, fellow kids" kind of thing. But literally, quoting is like, in the words of Olivia Rodrigo, "Damn, it's brutal out here." I was like, I know what that means because I listened to Olivia Rodrigo.
It's such a good line. And then like your shoulders hurt, and then just behind him, like knocking over all the
The
stuff on
sh
the shelf.
the
Like, what are you
shake weight,
doing?
the
Oh,
shake
the
weight.
shake weight bit was so funny.
I was like, literally, ski team.
I was all in on ski team jokes. Please give me all the ski team jokes. That was so funny. And what's great is, and not to invoke another promotion, but there's another promotion out there that's doing comedy bits like this, and it works. You get funny people doing funny things, and now I'm interested in those people. I think Pretty Deadly is fantastic. I thought they were great before. And I think they waited too long to pull the trigger on this because this is hysterical.
Honestly, and I think it's funny. I think they probably pulled the trigger because maybe Elton is like close to being ready to return, or at least is getting there. I love that, like they're trying to rehab, and it's just like you hit him too hard, and he falls
Yeah.
off the bed. He misses the step and falls. It's just a bunch of physical comedy,
I love the
and
whole like, oh, does it hurt? No, you're on my hair. Like, yeah.
of course the actor that's playing the doctor is like playing the straight woman and all this. She's just like, it's a shoulder tear. He's gonna be fine. Like, so over it.
Yeah, he's gonna be fine. That was so much fun. And then Graves coming back with the I haven't been that inspired since Brian's song, which
Oh my god.
if y'all don't know Brian's song, it's one of the saddest, most oddly inspirational movies to ever come out of film and cinema. And it's just quite literally a 1970s sob fest. And the fact that Graves dropped that and then maybe 4 lines later drops this Roman Empire meme thing, if anyone's heard that from the TikTok or Twitter, out of nowhere. Like Graves is on the pulse
Such
of
a
social media right
like the
now.
generational whiplash.
Yeah, like wait, what?
I was like, I think Corey Graves, you earned more of my respect. Slightly.
I think Graves is great when they let Graves go. If they
Right.
just let Graves go, then Graves tends to do funny things and is kind of in the moment. You saw that in Pittsburgh, being a homer there, obviously. I think when you give Graves sort of that spot in the three-headed monster, read from the script, push this, I think he gets bogged down and bored. So he kind of doesn't invest. However, if you just let him riff, him and Michael Cole were great at that. Again, the three-headed announcer table was a little better this week. I'm kind of warming up to it. But again, there's not enough time for talkie when there's three of you and Michael Cole is filling so much space. Yeah.
Listen, it's all when you have when you have two people on commentary, like it makes it a little easier because you can have a natural back and forth. But now I say this, and I know I'm being a hypocrite because three or more commentators on a team makes it tough because everyone wants to get their thoughts in,
Sure.
and normally it doesn't work. As I'm being a hypocrite because there's 9 of us trying to get our thoughts out, and we have yet to have all 9
We have
person.
yet to have we have yet to have the Brady Bunch cube of all of us, which I could just imagine the shit show that would be. But I mean, that could be cool.
That would be some great
Oh,
content.
did you imagine all 9 of us watching some events and just trying not to trip over each other and like ramble and be jokey? Oh, that could be a mess, but that could be a lot of fun.
It would be great. So we go from that amazing segment to what is our main event wrestling wise, like for the evening, the Brawling
Which
Brutes
it was
versus
not. It
Grace.
was. It was not the main event.
No, it was
Oscar. Yeah, Sky was.
okay. So this is what I don't understand. You have this as your main event wrestling match. Why couldn't you have switched these out?
Yeah, you and should have seen that on the fly.
I think it would have been a better lead-in to have this amazing women's match, and then you get into John Cena and AJ
Mhm.
ending the night like they did. I was just like, why? I'm still upset about this because I told Luis, I was like, I'm gonna be upset if this championship women's match is not the main event, and it wasn't, and I don't understand why.
Again, if it makes sense, they're not going to do it, right? Like we've established this. We kind of know how that works by now. I So this tag match I thought was actually really good. It was not a main event, but I thought it was solid. Like I didn't
Hmm.
hate it. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory work super well together. And like I was talking about earlier, I get the feeling now that Ridge isn't in his head necessarily, but he's going above and beyond to do things really safe. Every time he does that belly to belly and that toss or any German suplex, he's putting way more umph on it. He's way curling one direction, making sure they're tucked, making sure they're that. Not that he was ever unsafe, but now he's going above and beyond to make sure there's no mistake. He's taking care of who else is in there. Um, I think I'm repeating myself. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory are fantastic together. I think they're just hilarious.
Ugh,
They work
they're like literally
really,
bros.
really well together, and I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen that until now. I mean, it's borderline to invoke another company, MJF, Adam Cole. Like they're right there, in my opinion. Like they're having a blast. Um, Well, before I say what I want to say, what did you think?
I ultimately thought this was a fun match. Of course, the finishing sequence was fun to me.
Yeah,
The Austin's trying to get Ridge, and of course, they're playing up that Ridge is a big guy, which you is. That man is thicker than a Snicker. Like
that was an adorable quote. Keep going. Go ahead. I've not heard that before.
it's the there was a TikTok sound just as a tangent. It's like you're thicker than a Snicker, heavy like a Chevy.
That's up there with dumps like a truck. But go on. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So Austin was trying to get Ridge, and then the ref was a bit distracted. Which no, it wasn't distracted because the ref didn't call for a DQ. But Grayson Waller does this like still way too long of a finisher where he's out of the ring, runs through the bottom rope, does like a somersault into like literally a stunner. And then it allows Austin Theory to hit the A Town down, which I still think is the worst finisher of the modern era right now. He needs a new finisher to pick up the win for him and Grayson.
Yeah, it's just kind of a meh finisher, right? I love that rolling cutter thing.
Right?
Like that's
I feel like
gorgeous.
it's way too involved still, but I love it
Yeah,
still. It's
it is. I think
great.
you can clean it up. I think there are not to invoke others. There are other wrestlers that do that from the turnbuckle, or do that from a jump in, or do that from a rope out, sort of thing, and it's almost sneaky. You never know when the rolling cutter is going to show up. Uh I feel like he might just like the theatricality of the thing and sort of is able to. I don't know, but I agree. I think you could tighten that up some and still get a lot out of it. This was fun. It was nice to see fun tag matches in a row. I know Andrew, who's just joined by Connex. If you don't know the Andrew and you're listening, go check out the Andrew. Andrew's awesome. Uh, and
Bro,
Andrew would have loved the fact that there's 2 tag matches on a SmackDown. He'd be like, "Yeah, that
no,
hasn't happened in like 20
he
years."
made it abundantly clear, both on the Ring of Honor Impact reviews from yesterday. Like tag team wrestling is his thing,
That's
and
his thing.
he made it abundantly clear. Yeah. By the
Mhm.
way, give a shout out to Andrew because man jumped in like no questions asked. Like he's like, I'm here for it. I said, hey, you want to do Ring of Honor and Impact? Cool. By the way, they record on the same night, so you're gonna be like doing this for 3 to 4 hours. He's like, bet, let's do it. I was like,
Yeah.
my man.
Mhm. Andrew's fantastic and went and did gave him an excuse to just watch wrestling for a week, 8 hours a day. Like he works, like he has a life, but like just straight up went and did. Oh, I get to do homework on Ring of Honor. Done. Uh so yeah, just to have 2 tag matches there and 2 good, solid, like, oh my god, these are great things to see tag matches. While we're trying to get another tag match signed, like, oh look, tag wrestling. We're realizing it's important and tells a story and actually,
And that's the thing I want to bring up too. Like, cause I'm reviewing my notes. I was like, this was a fun episode. I'm like, holy crap, we only had 3 matches this whole entire
yeah,
night.
the whole time.
2 tag matches, and then which was deserved. Like your big match was the women's title match, and that got like 2 commercial breaks, 20-minute time limit. Like they went to 20
Mhm.
minutes. It's like
And I feel like they didn't shorten anything for promos. They didn't force anything. They let these matches ride, which was great to see.
again, it's like everything flowed pretty nicely this
Yeah.
SmackDown. So we get into
Which, as
yeah,
JVL said, this is the McMahon and retrograde thing. Like this
yes.
is McMahon not being there, and all of a sudden things kind of happen organically, and the audience is okay with it. You don't gotta force these things down our throat in certain ways. I digress.
I'm gonna find a way to turn that into a t-shirt
You gotta make a shirt, McMahon, and it's gotta be a McMahon
Find like
zodiac
a
chart like
zodiac like tarot
thing.
card art style just with
That's what it
Vince
is.
McMahon as a tarot card and put Vince McMahon in retrograde.
If there's anyone out there who's an artist, you got to make a Vince McMahon tarot card. It would be fantastic.
I would love to see it. But we end the SmackDown episode with this contract signing because there was a lot of moving parts to this. So
Yeah.
let's try to break this down in order. So John Cena first comes out. He's ready to sign this contract, and then AJ Styles music hits. AJ doesn't come out. Then the Titantron shows that AJ's getting his butt whooped.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay starts off with like hitting AJ on the cases, throwing him over the cases. Solo Sokoa is on like a LED board fixture, and then
Yeah.
like from Michael Cole, that is not 50 feet. You need to calm down.
You say
But
50 or 15?
I thought he said 50,
Okay,
50, but
that
I
was
could if it
yeah.
was maybe he did say 15 because if it was 15, I was like, you know what? I could kind of believe that.
I kind of misheard him too. He said it fast, but if it was 50, we'd be like, yeah, they're both dead. I
Well, that's my initial thought. As soon as Solo jumped off, like nothing, he's like, ah, psh, and then the crash happens. Good work on the camera people for like
yeah.
putting everything so
If
AJ's not actually landing. There's probably something there to
I wrote
catch
that down too.
Solo.
I feel like there was a crash pad that they used that split
Someone's
second
hiding with
of
some cooking sheets.
cut to
Like,
Jimmy. Yeah, I think they folded and stunted this a little bit, which is great because
but
then by the
yep.
time the camera comes back, we see the broken tables and everything else. That looked staged to me. So I think they did a switch there behind the
Which
box.
was fun. But as soon as Solo jumped and we heard the crash, I'm like, oh, they killed AJ tonight. They
They
killed.
just a murder, like
They
whatever.
murdered him. They
There's something
murdered my boy.
there's something great about watching Jimmy smile while beating someone up. I'm watching this now, rewatching it. There's just something like he's so happy.
Again, because
Wow,
he's
wow,
because he
wow.
feels like he's helping run roughshod on SmackDown. Like this
Yeah.
is our show. I'm like, sir, Roman has not forgotten you, and when he comes back, it's just again, it's kind of like weirdly enough of this Home Alone situation where Jimmy,
Sure.
it's not even Solo because Solo's out here just existing, but
Yeah.
Jimmy's out here like. Jimmy is the epitome of right now is just like when your parents are out of town and you
Mhm.
throw a crazy party in the house
Sure.
and things are getting broken and things are like that. And
It's
Jimmy
so
is that
funny.
sibling where, you know what, we're always going to fix it. It's cool. And then, Paul Heyman is the other sibling. It's like, no, it's not cool. We need to pick this all up because mom and dad come home.
You know,
We're dead.
Paul Heyman's the babysitter you hired who fell
Yep.
asleep. And then when the babysitter wakes up, they go, "Oh God, what have you done?"
Literally,
So this
so
spot happens. We kill AJ Styles. All the refs run in. They're moving boxes, and
John
Jimmy
Cena
and
runs
Solo.
backstage.
Ron John Cena's there to save him. Solo flips a table that did nothing to him, had nothing to do with anything.
What did
Just
that table ever
flips
do
it.
to you? You didn't like it because it was
Um,
mahogany. Rude.
it was it was a fold out mahogany table. Shout out to season 1 of Biconics. That happens. We have a commercial break in here and all this. We come back from the break. AJ Styles is getting into an ambulance. I wrote down in my notes, where's the OC? Like,
Well, 2 out
where
of
are
3 of them were there, but yeah,
where are
where
your
were they when this
where are your
attack
friends?
happened?
Because this is what AJ's been saying for months. Like, you're never there when I get jumped. And then it happened again.
Well, okay, so the interesting bit about this is because AJ, because me and Luis talked about this because it happened last week. AJ Styles ringed it into them, and he's like, "I don't want you guys anywhere near my match against Jimmy, which was last week." And
And
so
then
they're
he
like,
gets,
"Fine, we're not going to come out." And then I was like, "He meant the match, you guys, not like
yeah,
for when he get his butt
not for
whooped."
when he gets murdered in the back.
Well,
Like,
on
someone
top
should be there.
Well, on top of that too, like when AJ's being put into the ambulance because Cena's there, Adam Pierce is there,
Right.
Mia Yim is ready to rip it into Carl Anderson,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Where's Luke Gallows? Like, where is my big boy?"
I love that he blames the victim in here. It's like, I told him not to get involved with the bloodline.
Sir,
What are you?
sir,
The dude's in an ambulance dying. That's what you're going to lead with? I told him not to get involved with
that's
you in
what
the bloodline.
I
Like,
love that
what?
Mia. I love that Mia went into Mama and he's like, "Shut up, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Now's not the
Yeah.
time."
Yeah. I think she should have dropped him. I don't know. This speaks to me like the OC is just even more irrelevant than it ever has been. And they're lucky. They're lucky they didn't get cut the way that they're being used the
I
last
was
few months.
shocked that they didn't, but I feel like because they are personal friends of AJ, not to say the nepotism is there in terms of like friend wise, but
Oh, I'm sure it is.
I know AJ has been like working hard and he thinks that like I mean, come on. Like I like Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, but they just haven't been used properly yet.
No, no, absolutely not.
And of course,
So
So
we have the ambulance. We get Solo and Jimmy and Heyman coming down to the ring. The
uh,
crowd goes ape
boo.
shit.
They boo.
They hate them now, which
I
is
wrote
what you
yep.
wanted.
I wrote this down because I thought it was funny. Paul Heyman tries to start his normal thing. Is just like ladies boo, and then Paul Heyman's like they boo ladies in Arizona. I was like, damn.
Yeah, good line. Paul Heyman's been around a while. He knew it was coming. The crowd refuses to do the call out. My name is Paul Heyman. Only a few folks do it. They're all in on the heat for this. So they come out here for the signing. They talk a little bit. the glorious John Cena, now that you can see him, runs down the ramp, gets in there, starts fighting, almost works, almost lands the thing, and then Jimmy kicks him in the face, falls to the ground. We have a 2-on-1. Jimmy signs the contract, Solo signs the contract. They drop it on his chest, and then they frog splash him twice,
I
just
was
out
sup
of spite.
I was surprised, and again, and we talked about this a little bit off camera because at this point, normally we're trained with the 2-on-1 beatdowns where you the 2-on-1 beatdown, somebody needs to come out for the save. And I still am the firm belief that it might have been LA Knight who was supposed to come down and,
Mm-hmm.
rough shot it.
I,
And
I,
then
I think so because they even did that. They might have done this subconsciously. They waited a beat for the music. They sat there and they stopped and they looked at each other, looked at the camera, and normally that's the cue, bang, the sound cue or the thing. There's a part of me that really wishes WWE doubled down and got The Rock for 2 weeks in a row. Because could you imagine the pop and the sensation of them destroying John Cena, and right before that finger reaches the top, if you smell,
that would have
that
been
place
amazing.
would have exploded. And now
Seriously.
you have the angle of tribal chief, tribal chief. You have the air of Peter Maivia coming up with Roman Reigns. Like, whoo, that would be huge. But The Rock probably costs a lot of money, and if it makes sense, they're not going to do it.
Well, okay. So, like, I mean, this is how SmackDown ended. So there are 3 guesses as to who can be John Cena's mystery partner. Then the person that's on the top of my list is
Goldberg.
definitely
Sorry.
do not invoke he who shall not be named on
Boom,
this.
boom, 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 and just walking out there all old and stuff. It'll be fantastic.
Be like, what are we doing here? But no. But number 1 on my list is I think LA Knight's probably the most probable choice of
Sure,
who's the tag team partner. I don't think
absolutely.
AJ ever was going to be the tag partner for Cena, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
They kind of
So
used AJ as a ploy in this plot, which is a shame because they're misusing AJ, in my opinion. But you're right. Carry
mhm.
on.
So number 1 is on my list. And then the only other person I had, because The Rock is number 3, but number 2, and I've seen some reports, I don't think it's possible, but oh my gosh, if they are able to keep it under wraps and just if you want to get a huge moment at Fastlane, the rumor report is if it's not LA Knight, a returning Randy Orton.
Ooh, that would be huge, particularly now that
Honest, yep.
his buddy Matt Riddle was just cut a few days earlier.
We'll get into the releases in a hot second because
Ah,
I'm gonna go off in terms of like this is out of
how
control.
wild would that be? That would be great. Who's your third? Who do you think the third one would be?
I said if it was possible, it like obviously because The Rock costs too much money, but that'd be hilarious to have Rock be seen as tag team partner because I mean the rumored report is Roman's supposedly going to be fighting both nights of WrestleMania, one against The Rock and then one against Cody's.
That would be nuts. Could you imagine, like, and this is me, this is my opinion, and maybe this is Endeavor seeing something we don't. You would kind of win back the whole Attitude Era if you played that right. And you say, The Rock is back to fix this bloodline thing you might have heard about. And then you go, oh, wait, it's happening. And you play the family angle like we've been talking about for a year and a half. Like, and then you start bringing in cousins and family and whatnot. Oh, man. That would, if again, I can't believe SmackDown made me interested. They did something right. But that would be huge.
I'm very interested, and like this is how SmackDown goes off the air. We have 2 weeks until Fastlane, and
Yeah.
as of right now, we know we pretty much know like which Raw matches we're probably gonna get. We still have yet to see which SmackDown side matches we're going to get, but we'll see what happens with all that.
Sure.
So let's get into our rating, and then we're gonna spend some time talking about all the things that have happened this week in
Right.
WWE land. I am going to use the empanada scale, thanks to our lovely co-host Luis. I'm going to give this like a solid 3 out of 5 empanadas for me. Again, I
Oh,
think
good.
I think everything flowed very well between, even though there was a lot more backstage and promo stuff, I actually thought it balanced out a lot, especially given the fact that both tag team matches got about 8 to 10 minutes, and then you
Yeah,
gave the women's championship match 20 minutes, which I was just like, we got 40 minutes of wrestling, and then, like, not counting commercials, maybe like 20, 30 minutes of promos and backstage segments combined with
but like
everything.
live promo, like not stuff
Right.
pre-taped, like stuff that was in
Exactly.
the ring and things that actually happened. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, the only downside is that, I'm worried about what's happening with Bobby and the Street Profits because,
Yeah.
the Street Profits are still having a tough time figuring out, hey, we're not going to be doing that kind of stuff. And I want heel profits, but it's really hard because WWE needs to be careful because they're so over with the crowd.
That was my concern too, and the kind of the mixed bag from the audience these last few times.
And
Even
then
even heel Bobby Lashley's having a hard time getting over. Like folks don't
let
know what to do about
I
that.
want let Bobby and the Street Profits be faces, in my opinion, because everybody loves Bobby, everybody loves the Street Profits. Like,
Well, and like I said earlier, they're trying to walk the line. Rip the
Mhm.
Band-Aid off. Make them do something. Attack LA Knight in the street, and then go beat up John Cena, and then go do something horrible to someone. Like make them bad. Build
Right,
some heat. Right now, we're sort of in this growing pains place, which is way. It's been too transitional for too long. You had your shot to make this transitional. Now, pull the trigger.
exactly. So, and then of course the ending to the women's championship match, while it wasn't inherently bad, it's just like, ugh, I hate a distraction because Asuka, I feel like, is too good for that. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
it didn't really take too much away from it. But 3 out of 5 empanadas this
Yeah,
week.
three
I
out of
thought
five.
this was
Yeah,
solid.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If I'm using the five empanada scale, I agree. I'm gonna bump it a little higher in that 3.5. Like it's approaching, what would be almost 9 out of 10 for me. Um, it is still only one women's match. You did give them the full time. You did give them 20 minutes, and we saw a whole thing. So I'm not throwing you a bone, but you should still do better. But that was great. Please, now that I know you can do that, don't give me any less. So yeah, we're in that 3.4, 3.5 empanada scale. And you made me care. Thank you, SmackDown. You made me care a little bit. You do this to me. You make me hate you for 6 weeks, and then you do something right, and I go, oh, but I like you now. Okay, I'll watch next week, and then it's 4 weeks of why? Why are we here? But again, it still holds true. If it's a 2 out of 10 or a 1 out of 5 empanadas, I'm not. We can't review it. We can come here and talk all the shit, but we're not going to review the thing. Um, let's go to the pressing news matter, which Mikey has been dying to talk about for an hour now. A lot of folks got cut from NXT, from WWE. A lot of folks that did not know, like you were talking about, and then we're making posts and talking, and then all of a sudden, within minutes, we're finding out, oh, I've been released. Oh, everything has changed.
Right.
Um, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna just give you the reins and let you take them. I personally think it's too early to throw out the Impact AEW rumors of who's going where, who's doing what. There's other wrestlers. I don't want to say they're meddling, but there's other wrestlers kind of calling out other wrestlers in a way to try and get them into other promotions. Matt Riddle's retweeted a few folks, and there's a whole lot of things in there. And I love that they're jumping on work. I know that they're hustling. I know that some of them weren't being used, so they've had nothing but time to contemplate what is life, what am I doing in that existential wrestling crisis. I get it. Uh I It's jarring. And it's sad because, like we talked about, Dolph and Mustafa Ali, among others, it's like, but how do they not see what I see? They're better than me. I'm just some dude on the couch. How do they not see it? But anyway, Mikey, go get
So
him.
before we dive really deep into all this and kind of have a conversation about it, so over the last week or so, starting Wednesday, I think, and then even
Mhm.
going into as much as yesterday, there was a lot of talent from WWE that got released. So I'm gonna work my way up the list from NXT all
Sure.
the way up to like some of the bigger ones. So a lot
I'll,
of these folks we haven't seen on television, both on main roster and NXT, but the following people have been released from WWE. So that includes Abdul Abdabi Fitzgerald, Brooklyn Barlow, Alexis Gray, Daniel MacArthur, Kevin Ventura Cortez, Bryson Montana. So all these are NXT folks. We never got to see them on television, but they got released. And then we start to get into the people that have kind of been on TV to some of the more bigger names. So we start with Quincy Elliott, Yulissa Leon, which I talked a little bit to the professor before we started the SmackDown
Mhm.
review. We just saw her in a match at Great American Bash, which is really sad that she got released. Shanky Dabakato. Data Brooke kind of made me sad to see her release because girl has
Sure.
been give
Hmm.
they main roster in NXT, they always give her like not the fun stuff, but she's made it work, and it's sad that she got released in this. And then we start to get to main roster. So the Maxim male models got released, Mansoor and Massey, Rick Boogs, Top Dollar. Aaliyah
Hmm.
made me sad because Aaliyah's great, but they just don't use her. The power couple of Riddick Moss and Emma, who are actually a couple. Emma,
Hmm.
again, we talked about it during the SmackDown review. I felt really bad. She was excited to want to be involved in, a pay per view coming to her hometown. 35 minutes later, oh, never mind, got released. That made me sad. And
Alexis Gray just found out. Alexis Gray just got released. She was in the rookie class. I'm seeing this. This broke 45 minutes ago, apparently, according to this.
yep.
Wow. They're
And
still releasing folks. Wow.
again, and it's just like a lot of the times it's just the phone call, hey, you've been released. Bye, click.
Yeah.
And the sucky thing is that WWE, even though they have the merger now, the 90-day no compete clause is still a thing. I'm like, these people cannot wrestle for 90 days. But Rick Boogs, Top Dollar, Aaliyah, Riddick, Moss, Emma, and then we get into the four. Well, I mean, technically Matt Riddle counts this as five, but as I said in our group chat, I'm not surprised he got released
What's
because
really funny, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'm looking at this list of releases, then this and this and this. Matt Riddle's not on these lists, even though Matt Riddle's one of the bigger names that got released. People
right, and
people are trying to bury him. Anyway, keep going.
yeah, so Matt Riddle, I'm not surprised, but the four that I was really surprised with, it just wasted opportunity is with the theme here. Um, Dolph Dolph Ziggler really hurt to see that got released. I'm like, this man
Sure.
like had such a long and good career. This man was out there wrestling as much as possible. And then I was like, he wasn't injured. So I'm like, why are we not putting him on television for whatever reason? And then I was just like, poor Dolph Ziggler, man. Like, the company, I feel like, never did anything proper with him. Like, he had championship reigns, but he was always transitional champion. And I still think my favorite promo of his when he went against The Miz for the IC title, like peak 2015, 2016 SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, like, we saw the real person underneath the character, and which made me love him even more. And I was like,
Yeah,
how this
there's
man is a workhorse.
I'm pulling up a bunch of articles. There's an article here about Ric Flair giving tribute to Dolph Ziggler, talking about how sad he is. It looks like it's on, what is this? Inside the Heat on Fan Nation. He's talking all about him.
Mhm.
Yeah, said that Ziggler had been a leader and a champion, a man of unquestionable character. He would never forget the letter that Ziggler sent him while he was in the hospital. So that one stings. It looks like
That
that one
one really hurts.
stings the locker room a lot. And then, sadly, quite the headline right underneath that is Vince McMahon deems Dolph Ziggler not a top WWE talent and has commented and saying, like, yeah, he's just not. It's like, oh, dang.
It is a shame. Like, I think letting Dolph Ziggler go was not a great decision, but once the 90-day compete clause is up, I'm happy. Whatever he wants to do, I will support him. Um, Elias being released also hurt too. I was like, bro, again, once again,
Hmm.
you have a wrestling character that is so over with the audience, and then
Yeah.
you have gold on your hands and you just let it let go. I was just like, that's ridiculous. And I'm just like, that one
Yep.
hurt. The disrespect to Shelton Benjamin because releasing like this man was in like he's been with WWE since like the WWF days. Like this
I was gonna
man
say
has
he's been there a long time.
And I'm just like, and you mean to tell me you couldn't have done anything with him?
Yeah,
Bobby,
from 2000. I was gonna say I know Shelton, but from 2000 to 2010, and then came back from 2017 till now. Dude's been there forever.
and you couldn't find anything for him to do? Shit, you should have had him and Bobby Lashley fight each other. That would have been amazing.
I remember his promos. I remember this guy. Oh my god, I remember this guy. This was
And
way
he had
back.
one of my favorite bits
Yeah,
when they threw like the actress who played Mama Shelton back in the day, like that was gold. And even Shelton Benjamin says that is the funnest that he has ever had being a wrestler with WWE is Mama Shelton, because he's like the comedy was just so much fun for him. And I
yeah.
was
Oh
like, you
my
couldn't have done
god.
anything for him like
This was
that.
the team, the him and Kurt Angle, the team Angle. Oh man, I remember this. This is right around when I stopped watching wrestling. Of course, I remember this guy.
And yeah, of course, Matt Riddle was the recent one yesterday. I'm
Yeah,
not surprised. It
I
sucks, but I'm not surprised because he kept getting in trouble.
getting in trouble and some of the drama and the behind the scenes and litigation and
Yeah.
not litigation and accusations but not accusations and sort of the perception is the reality on that. So yeah,
I
that
mean,
one's
all the people I've listed on this list so far, like I never like when people lose their jobs, and that's always the sad thing, and
right.
it sucks. But now I'm going to read this last name, and then this is where I go off.
And here we go.
So the last name is Mustafa Ali, and let me tell you why I'm going to go off on this one, because of all these names outside of Matt Riddle, because he's actually been on television the last couple weeks. Mustafa Ali for the last couple of months has been in NXT, and last month and a half we've been building this story and this feud and this match for the No Mercy pay-per-view that is literally next Saturday on September 30th,
Mhm.
where he was supposed to be facing off against Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American Championship. Like, you had him enter this feud. There was a number one contenders match where he beat Dragon Lee. He was giving promos to this. And then, like, again, in our text thread on Monday Night Raw, when I saw the graphic, Dragon Lee versus Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American Championship. On Monday Night Raw, I'm like, why are we having this championship match like days before No Mercy?
Mhm.
And, in hindsight, now it's like, oh, I think this was the beginning of the writing on the wall.
Yeah,
But
Dominic Mysterio came out and said when they asked him about it, this is on In the Click, which I think I've heard of. I think I might have seen that pop up. Dominic Mysterio says, yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation that very talented people have to go through situations like this, but at the end of the day, it's out of our control. We just do whatever we can to put our best foot forward. But as far as No Mercy goes, I'm just going to have to wait and see who my opponent will be. Dominic playing that very carefully because politically he's kind of in a rough spot too.
that's the other thing, too. You screw Dominic out of having a pay-per-view match at No Mercy, too.
Yeah.
And it makes me mad because I'm like, NXT has taken time to build up this feud to No Mercy, and then now that Mustafa, and what makes it even more upsetting is the fact that Mustafa Ali cuts this really fun promo this past Tuesday, and
Mm-hmm.
me and Will reviewed NXT, and he's like, you know what? Mustafa Ali was speaking for the people. Is just like, why is Dragon Lee getting a championship match when I'm the number one contender? And then he ends the promo like, you know what? I'm going to Monday Night Raw and I'm gonna handle this. And now we're not even gonna get that little bit because next day we find out he's released.
Yeah, I wonder
Again, I
about that.
I understand like cutting costs and all that, but what the actual fuck? Like, Mustafa Ali was in the middle of a pay-per-view build, and
Mm-hmm.
now I have to wait till Tuesday to figure out if the North American Championship is even going to be at No Mercy now. And I was like, you just took a match off the card that didn't need to be taken off.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, it's so frustrating.
Uh, it is. It's disturbing. I want to say Night of Champions, right? That was the one where we saw him and oh gosh, I'm trying to
Gunther,
remember.
that
It was
match
him and Gunther,
ruled.
right? That was
That match ruled.
fantastic. That was. I mean, I like Mustafa Ali leading up to that, but that was the one that we all reviewed, and I was like, that was wild. Uh, and he's great on the mic. He's everything there. I'm just curious what they don't see. It's a person of color who's amazing at this. He's not very old. How old are you, Mustafa Ali? I'm gonna find out. You can't be that old. You're 37. You're not over the hill. Like you're still a talent. You're from Chicago. Hey, nice too. Mustafa Ali's great. and it makes me sad. And I think of all of them, who you hope they all land on their feet. I think Mustafa Ali's the one that's is going to take this and run with it. I wouldn't be surprised if he has that chip on the shoulder for the rest of his career, because he should, obviously. Similar to those in the other promotions, when we invoke their name, that kind of got passed over and sent to the island of misfit toys, but were actually the cool toys all along. Like that's tough. And of course, no one who is still on the roster can comment on it fully like Dominic was, right? Like, you got to walk that line, because one, you don't want to be next, and two, you don't want the retribution from up top. Like, you don't want them to stall out your career either. It's always sad to see folks lose their jobs, like you said. And I'm looking now, this is actually relatively tame. In 2021, they cut like 40 people overnight. So this is sort of a thing that WWE's been doing. It's just, I think this one's so close to home with so many big names that we've been waiting to see and been wondering about. That's tough.
It
21,
makes me
22. I'm trying to find the last time they dropped a lot of these folks. I can't find the date here, but there was one that looks like they dropped a whole lot.
Yeah, this made me sad. Like, nobody deserves to get, lose their job, but
Right.
again, I was so frustrated when I saw Mustafa Ali like get cut. And I know he's been trying to leave WWE, but he looked like he was enjoying himself in NXT. And again, not just him, but like you brought up, like Dominic is now, unless we get a match at No Mercy or whatever happens on Monday Night Raw between him and
Mhm.
Dragon Lee,
Yeah.
Dominic basically has no opponent for No Mercy if we're even going to get that. And right now, as of the recording here, No Mercy only has one. With that match now out of the way, we only have 3 confirmed matches now instead of the 4 that we had as of Tuesday.
Man, what is No Mercy right now?
So
Is
if we're
there
taking the North American Championship out, the only other 3 matches that we have confirmed so far is Noam Dar will be facing whoever
Mhm.
wins between Joe Coffey and Butch on Tuesday for the NXT
I see.
Heritage Cup.
Okay, yeah. And then
Uh,
Carmelo Hayes
Carmelo and,
and
and
Dragunov.
Ilya, that match is
Mhm.
going to rule still. And then Becky versus Tiffany in an Extreme Rules match
That's cool.
for the NXT Women's Championship. And I'm just like, okay, those 3 matches are cool. But I was
Mhm.
excited for this North American Championship match, and that's now not a possibility anymore with Mustafa Ali gone. And
You're
who knows?
forgetting we get a Braun Breaker Baron Corbin match.
I purposely left first. Listen, if you just put us on, John, as background noise, me and Will have expressed our disinterest that this build has sucked.
No,
This
I just wanted to poke you and see what happens. I've warmed up. I've warmed up to Baron Corbin, like I've said, but apparently they just don't know what to do with him.
oh, again, you should listen to the NXT reviews because every time Baron's on screen, Will goes off and it's great. He hates him.
I
He
love
hates
it.
his promo skills too.
Oh well, that's the thing. In the ring, I think he's great, but he's cardboard on the mic, and I'm like, you've been here 20 years. What happened? Um,
I have such a disinterest in this match because the feud to this is so ridiculous.
no, I feel you.
It's like no build it's whatsoever. But, again, I wish nothing but, and this sounds horrible cuz WWE likes to use this as their staple. Whatever the future endeavors lay for all the people that got released, once the 90-day compete clause are up, I'm interested to see where they go, whether it's
Yeah.
independence, if they decide, hey, I don't want to wrestle no more, which I'm cool for. If they go to other promotions like AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor, like I'm cool
Do you
with
know if
it.
that clause is the same for international stuff? Like, could they go down to Mexico or could they go to Japan or something? Is that still the same 90 days you can't go anywhere, or that's just in the States?
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't put it past I wouldn't put it past Vince if he put it for both, in states and international stuff as well.
I was gonna say, because there's a part of me that's like, he probably just doesn't want you on TV promoting another promotion for 90 days, as opposed to, hey, why don't you go over to some DDT or a lucha spot, or head up to Stampede, or head over to someplace nobody knows about and just work not your name for a while so you stay frosty and then come back and kick ass and take names. It also tells me in 90 days from this week, there's going to be a lot of good reasons to watch Impact and AEW and like
Ring of Honor, if these people choose
Ring
to
of
go
Honor.
there. My biggest hope is because even some wrestlers have been like, you know what? Like, I know Cassie Lee, who is one of the Iconics, formerly known as the Iconics,
Mm-hmm.
um, who the Iconics are literally they are the origin story for the Biconics to begin with.
Hey,
She's like, "Hey, I want to face Emma." I'm like, "Yes, please do. My Australian girls fighting each other would be
that's what I was
phenomenal."
saying. Like, folks are going on Twitter and calling each other out and kind of keep that buzz out, which I think is super cool and supportive. I think it's too early for,
Right.
and it's already happening on the Reddit and other places for everyone's going down full conspiracy theory more than we do here about who should go where and why and what could you do with this and who are your friends and this and that. It's so much more complicated. It's so much more, maybe they want time off. Maybe they want to be with their families. They're not, I mean, Shelton is 48, 49. And I'm not saying you can't wrestle into your 50s and shoot, black don't crack. But I'm saying that, like, maybe you want to reevaluate. Maybe you want to figure something else out you want to do. I don't know. We're coming up on an hour and a half, Mikey.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot. I've expressed my opinions, and
I
you know
only
what?
I only say that because we can go another hour if we don't start like we could start ranting.
I'm gonna save it for literally. This is a conversation we can pick back up like when we get
Yeah,
together and do the end of the year stuff, so we can recap all the
absolutely,
crazy ass shit
absolutely.
that this year has been
Well,
for
in 90
professional
days, by
wrestling.
the end of the year, maybe some of these folks have showed up. What's 90 days from today?
I
Hang on,
want to.
everyone.
I think I want to say somewhere between like December. It's gonna be
Google.
December like I think December like 13th, 14th, or 18th or 19th. It's like towards the end of December.
What is 90 days from today? Date calculator. Thank you, internet. Duh, 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 duh. Oh, dude, that's December 22nd.
Literally days before Christmas.
It's right around the Christmas time. Are there any pay-per-views around Christmas? Because that would be. Wait, hang on.
The only pay-per-view, and it hasn't been confirmed yet, the only pay-per-view that I know probably will happen in December is Ring of Honor's Final Battle, but that happens towards the beginning of the month.
So Friday. It's a Friday. It's a Rampage day.
I mean, if they,
Ooh, that's a
I
day to
mean,
watch the Rampage. That's a ooh.
I would.
Imagine the shots fired if they premiere stuff the same night as a SmackDown before Christmas.
That would be insane.
Wow.
Well, we're just gonna have to wait and
We're
see what
we have
happens
something to
90
think about.
days from now. But this does bring us to the end of our Friday night faction review. John, it's always lovely to review this with
Lovely.
you.
Lovely to see you. I'm glad this worked out.
This really, really did. And we'll figure something out because I know Minnie wants to get back in, so we may alternate, but we can discuss this off camera. But if you like our Friday night faction review, you can check out other Friday night faction reviews as well as all the other reviews we have for the weekly TV shows and the pay-per-views. You can follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. And if you think we're unhinged here, go check out our actual podcast where we're like that, but 10 times more unhinged. Again, our most recent episode, which dropped on Monday, we went over our favorite wrestlers outside of WWE, some of our favorite matches, but then we spent like 45 minutes in full conspiracy theory mode about this merger, and it was a blast as I was fighting the internet to get back on. it
Yeah.
was a it was a great time. But that is going to be it for us here. And until the next Friday Night Faction review, from all of us here at the Biconics, myself and the professor, as well as Evan and Luis, who are our official and unofficial hosts at the same time for this, we love you. Take care of yourself. And until then, stay Biconic, you beautiful peoples. We'll see you later.